Hello, today I'm going to be looking at some Tudor pottery, in particular the Redwares which were made in London in the Tudor period, illustrated as ever with actual examples that I've pulled out of the Thames mud at low tide while mudlarking. What is redware? Well, simple enough. It's basically a red clay that has been fired and keeps its red colour there. So redware is simple red clay. There's a long history of redware clay production in London, stretching right from medieval times right up to the 1960s. The last redware factory in London closed in the 1960s. For this reason, and also because 99% of redware output was very everywhere, domestic or industrial, undecorated, pottery, it's quite difficult sometimes to identify the age of a redware, especially if you've got a small piece. If you've got a larger diagnostic piece, that helps a lot. But we're going to see if we can point out a few helping hints which will help you to identify redware produced in London in the Tudor period. The Tudor period lasts from 1485 to 1603, a very fascinating period of history, and is one of people's favourite periods of history. You've got characters such as Henry VIII and Elizabeth I. A full list of Tudor monarchs. The dynasty starts with Henry VII, then you have Henry VIII, Edward VI, Mary and Elizabeth I. Obviously there's some overlap in pottery production. It's not as if Elizabeth I dies in 1603 and everyone thinks, right, I must change over and now I'm going to only be buying Stuart pottery. So there is, a gradual morphing, as the society evolves from a medieval society in the 15th century to more of a post-medieval society at the beginning of the 17th century, much more recognisable to the way we live now. And seeds were sown for Britain's maritime power and future status as a world empire in the future centuries to come. So let's have a look at some of the pottery. There are various areas that produced redwares in and around London in this period. Kilns have been found at Lambeth, Woolwich and Deptford and at Moorfields, supplying the capital, and no doubt others will be found in the future. Just to give you sort of a brief description of a typical shard of Tudor London redware. You've got the red colour, obviously. The glaze is rather patchy. You can see it's just splashed on. There's speckles of glaze, there's areas of glaze, there's areas that aren't glazed. And very often you also find a very thick grey core to the red clay. Basically the kiln temperature wasn't very high and it wasn't well enough produced to fire through the clay as a uniform red colour. So if you've got patchy glaze, speckled glaze and a grey core, then you're probably looking at a piece of Tudor pottery. Archaeologists divide it up into different types of redware, and they give them very imaginative and natty, snappy little names. So let's run through those. First, starting with early post-medieval redware, which was produced in London from 1480 to about 1600. And this is, as I described, classic features are partial glazing, or perhaps no glazing at all, a sandy feel to the earthenware clay. You can see the glazing's just been splashed on. Sometimes with jugs you just get a splash on the front, sometimes glazed inside or outside only. And again, very often you get that grey core there. Sometimes it's just a thin bit of grey there. Different colours of glazes. Green glaze is still very popular through this period, less popular afterwards. You get clear glazes and you get brown glazes. There's a few more bits there. You can see a rod handle there, but the core is very grey. This piece is not glazed. at all. Then we see a bit of glazing splashed over there, but nothing on the handle. Tiny bit of glaze underneath the handle there. That's got some sooting where it's been in the fire as well. So that gives you an idea. Well, here's a piece that's mostly grey, just a tiny bit of red, so the temperature in the kiln must have been quite low that day, so that's quite distinctive. Following on from that, you have post-medieval redware. This runs from about 1580 right up to the 1960s, as I said. Generally, the clay is much more of a uniform red colour all the way through, and the glaze can still be just on the inside or just on the outside, is much more regular. So you have a smooth covering of glaze there. Obviously sometimes the form can help you to identify that it's later than Tudor period there. Have a look at that piece as well. So that's nicely glazed inside and out, very uniform, not splashed or dripped or speckled. And likewise that piece there. The core, not grey, nice and red all the way through. So that's the more fine post-medieval redware. We also have slip decorated redware, which will run from 1480 to 1600. There's examples here. So a slip is just a coating of wet clay, and it was used on large pots and cisterns to produce curvy decoration or line decoration. You can still see the redware there. Here's another example. Quite a grey surface to that clay, so grey surface and a red core and some decoration there just trailed, painted onto it there. Post-medieval bichrome redware from 1480 to 1600. Bichrome just means it's got two colours on it. So you'd have one colour inside, maybe a clear glaze or a yellowish glaze, and then another colour of glaze outside, like a green glaze on the outside. So if you get a shard which has one colour inside, one colour outside, then that's probably more likely to be Tudor period as well. Post-medieval slipped redware. Basically this would have had a slip painted onto the clay, which will be visible as white, and then glaze put on afterwards. So sometimes, just in the profile there, hopefully you can see that there's a little thin white line between the clay and the glaze, and that's the slip. So that gives you a clue about that. Obviously, again, you know, the glaze doesn't cover the whole of the pot, just splashed on the inside, speckled glaze there. Here's another example. So redware, glazed inside with copper glaze coming out green, but you can just see at the edge it's got that white slip, which is also, you know, giving it more yellowish colour as well on there. And those is very distinctive of the slipped redware from 1480 to 1600. What about the form? Sometimes the form of the pot can give you a clue to its date. As I said earlier, 99% of the redware production was very humble domestic items, occasionally tableware, but mainly everyday items for the house, cooking, sanitary ware. Obviously a lot of tableware in this period. If you're a poorer household, you would have had wooden tableware, plates. A bit more middle class, you'd probably have some pewter, and obviously in the aristocracy and royalty, you'd have silver tableware as well. So these are all competing with pottery, which is why you don't find all the forms in redware. But they produce jugs, and here are some pictures of those. You can see there's quite a distinctive rim shape to them, which is a good clue to age. And also goblets. You can see that they like the ribbed side. I suppose it made it easier to hold on to when you've had a few ales. And that's true, there's lots of ribbing on the post-medieval redwares. It's something else to watch out for. Bunghole cisterns as well. So these were used for holding small beer or water, and have a little bunghole in the bottom with a cork in it to let the liquid out when you needed it. So there's an example of those. And here's a picture of one. Cooking pots as well, very common. And chafing dishes. Now a chafing dish, here's a picture of a chafing dish. Chafing dishes, basically, chafing is warming, and so you have something at the bottom where you can put hot coals, and then you have something to let the heat through, and then on top of that little projections around the rims, and you put another bowl or something in it to keep your food warm on the table. For this reason, because they were used on the table, here's another example. You can see the sooting inside from the coals that we use to heat the food or liquid, and the cutout where you put it through. Because of that, they often had decoration on them, and these are, you know, some of the pieces that have that rare decoration. The only other decoration we get is thumbing on the edges of cooking pots. This is probably more of a helpful feature, which is more of a non-slip thing, so it helps give you a good grip as well as being a bit decorative. But it's just got thumbing around the edges there, or occasionally just a thumbing point where the handle joins on. But some of the chafing dishes would have had more elaborate decoration. Sometimes you get combing lines like that, and sort of elaborate rims. That's quite a nice rim of something, which has got some wavy line decoration. You can see that's the slipped variety of redware. The only other features, sometimes you get a foot that has been pulled out in the sort of Dutch style, just to give it a bit of stability there, or sometimes a little bit of decoration along the handle. But generally the redwares are not highly decorated. Other forms, you also get sprinklers and colanders, which obviously have holes pierced in them as well, so you do find those. Okay, well, I hope this quick overview of London area post-medieval redwares has helped you identify some of your finds, and hopefully you can track down a few Tudor goodies on the foreshore when you visit. Thank you. Bye.